lady is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She comes in with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and as always, I'm absolutely thrilled to be here and bringing you the show, the best shows I know how to bring you, which might not be saying much, but they're the ones that I'm going to bring you. So I hope you're all packed in and ready to go. We've got a Friday night show, which is 2 full hours. So we got a lot of time, but a lot of things to go through. Some great stories pulled up, some great information, I hope. I think you guys will like it, but I guess, you let me know. Let me know in the comments on YouTube if you do, and let me know via email. Reach out to me here on the show. I'd love to hear from you. As always, hour number 2, of course, the phone lines will be open if you want to call in and participate and be a part of the discussion. You sure can do that. Simply call 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. Those are the numbers for fun right here on the show. So I will look my hardest and as oftenest as I can and try to answer it in accord. But that'll be hour number 2. Please, just save it until then. If you would, please. Hello to everybody that's piling into the chats. Good to see you guys. Good to see those of you on TFR. Mr. Kev Baker's still hanging out. Fantastic show tonight. Over on Freaky Friday, I was hanging out there a little bit while I had a few minutes to check it out and see what was going on. And as always, it's an honor to follow Kev and the crew over there. Naysay and Scotty, that was great. It's just they do a hell of a job setting the bar. And I just hope I can live up to it. I do my best every week, but I love listening to the shows. And thank you for always getting the room warm and ready to go. That's a comedy reference. Not that I'm a comedian, but, warm up the room. Anyway. All right. Well, maybe not just comedy. It's entertainment. And I think I'm entertaining. least I hope so. But we've got a lot of things going on here tonight. I suppose I'm trying to remember if there's anything else I want to dump out there before we dive into it. But I think that's pretty much the gist of it. So we got 2 full hours, and the best place as always to start is with the news. All right, folks, the only news with an applause. So that's because we're real. This is real news here. And you can tell if you're looking on YouTube, you can see the pristine news graphics that just make you think, God, this is really legit, isn't it? I don't know. At least I think so. But anyway, folks, this is the Paranormal Portal News. And I've pulled up several articles we're going to get into here. And let me see. The first one I thought was pretty interesting because I don't know. We often hear in scientific circles talk about evolution, and I don't know if we still consider ourselves as evolving or not. I suppose we do in terms of socially evolving, evolving as far as having a globalistic and holistic worldview. But how about our bodies? And of course, if you look at history, our bodies are still changing. In fact, in like the Middle Ages, an average size person, which would have been a full grown adult, was right around 5 feet tall. So and even under. And so, if you were to take people from the Middle Ages and pop them here, they would think we were a land of giants because there's so many people that are so much taller than that. But so definitely we're still going through physiological changes through the time. But here's a theory I never would have thought could come up. But this one's new on me, and you guys will have to let me know what you think. But this is from unexplained-mysteries.com. Humans could one day evolve venom glands. So, if you're looking for your superpower to kind of settle in, it might still be coming. You might just be a really dangerous, venomous creature, and you got that going for you. So just hang on, those of you that are holding out for their superpower. This might be it. Scientists believe that our salivary glands have the potential to evolve the ability to produce deadly venom. When it comes to predicting future evolutionary changes to the human body, you might be tempted to imagine enhanced eyesight or a larger brain, but what about the ability to spit venom? Oh, that changes it a little bit. I guess we don't have to sink it in. We can just spit it. According to a new study by scientists at the Okinawa Institute of Science and Technology, Graduate University, and the Australian National University, our salivary glands could one day evolve to produce venom in much the same way that many other existing animal species. Oral venom systems evolved multiple times in numerous vertebrates, enabling the exploitation of unique predatory niches, the researchers wrote, yet how and when they evolved remains poorly understood. By understanding the genes linked to the release of venom in animals, they found that the same genes and physical mechanisms were responsible for the release of both venom and saliva in various species. It's not just snakes, frogs, and spiders that produce venom either. Some mammals do as well. Yeah, shrew. I got bit by one of those ones. They got a nasty bite. Anyway, another long story. But while many snakes employ an oral venom system for securing prey, there are also mammals such as shrews. There you go. And solenodons. I don't know how the hell to say that. Solenodons. That have evolved oral venom systems based on salivary glands for prey capture or defense, the researchers wrote. So could humans really evolve venom glands in the future? While it seems unlikely that this would actually happen, it's certainly not impossible. Exactly how would you use such an ability in everyday life, however, remains unclear. Be a whole new definition of road rage, right? God, turn on the wipers. They're pissed again. I don't know. That's just what grabbed me. You get all of me unfiltered on these Friday nights, so I don't even have Don to buffer me off of, so you can get all kinds of stupid in a hurry. But anyway, I don't know. We could get venom glands. if you wanted them. What happens if you swallow your own spit? You die? No, I'm just kidding. Of course not. Of course not. But that's the first article tonight on the show. And we're going to get to the next one here in a second. Yes, there we go. Got to get the buttons working. The next article. This is kind of a fresh kind of hell, I think. If you're out shopping and you get back to your car, this is not what you want to find. I can't imagine what this person thought, but you may want to think twice before you crack the windows, before you run into the mall. Just fair warning. Because according to this article from unexplained-mysteries.com, you might end up with a car full of bees when you come back. Shopper returns to find 15,000 bees in his car. That's right, 15,000. Ugh. A man in New Mexico popped into a store for 10 minutes and returned to find his car full of honeybees. The peculiar incident, which happened in the Albertsons parking lot in Los Cruces, started out innocently enough, with the unnamed man parking his vehicle to do some quick shopping. When he came out, a mere 10 minutes later, he didn't immediately notice that anything was amiss and even started to drive away when he glanced back and noticed that the entire rear of his car was swarming with thousands of bees. Unsure what to do about the situation, he opted to call 911. As luck would have it, firefighter Jesse Johnson, who also happened to be a beekeeper, was able to remove the bees from the car and place them inside an empty hive box so that they could be taken to a more suitable location. According to Johnson, the bees were most likely swarming with a queen and had been looking for a new home, which thankfully also made them more docile and easier to deal with. This didn't stop the bees from dishing out a couple of stings, however. Well, thank God he wasn't allergic, though. My God, that could have been a death sentence. That's absolutely terrifying. Huh. Well, there you have it. So you might want to just wind it up and deal with the heat. I don't know. That's absolutely frightening. I guess, if it's honeybees, that's fine. If it's like killer bees, you're going to be in a world of trouble. But anyway, that's the second article tonight. And we're moving on to the third. I really enjoy picking up these articles. I have a good time doing it, sitting back here and just checking through these things over and over and finding new and interesting stories. Because it's just so bizarre, You just realize how bizarre the world is. All right, so this is kind of interesting, though. This is more science-y, but it says eerie rumbles are coming from the Mars interior. This is from unexplained-mysteries.com. And I don't know, why is that news? Because I don't know. Are they not expecting there to be any tectonic movement on that planet at all? I don't know. But anyway, let's see what it says. NASA's InSight lander has recently picked up the telltale signs of seismic activity on the red planet. The space probe, which landed on Mars back in November 2018, uses a special dome-shaped device deployed on the planet's surface to listen out for signs of seismic activity. Known as the Seismic Experiment for Interior Structure, or SEIS. The device is incredibly sensitive to the point where it has to be protected from the elements to ensure that it keeps working properly. This latest detection comes during a time when calmer winds have made it easier to pick things up. Seismic activity on Mars is often referred to as a Marsquake. However, the red planet does not have the same tectonic plate system as the Earth, so the quakes are not caused by the same processes. The precise source of these seismic events, in fact, continues to remain something of a mystery. All we know is that something has caused a sudden release of energy in the planet's interior. The most recent quakes seem to be centered around a region of Mars known as the Cerberus Fosse, which is also the site of several other quakes that have been picked up in the past. So I guess they're ongoing. Further studies will no doubt be needed to find a definitive explanation for the phenomena. That's really interesting. I don't know. I guess it's both news to me and it's not, because I would have guessed there'd be tectonic issues there as well. It's a planet, but I don't know. What the hell do I know? Let's keep going. I think I got one more. Yeah. No, one or two more. I got two more. Yep. One more. The next one, rather, is I don't know what is going on lately, folks, but we definitely are seeing a year with a lot of reports coming out of Loch Ness. And maybe there's a lot more concerted efforts going on in trying to find Nessie, the Loch Ness monster. But there's reports coming out, several already this year. And I find that really, really interesting. So let's see what this one says. I have not read it in advance, so we're going to be reading it together. It says the elusive creature is reportedly spotted in the form of a dark shape on a webcam overlooking the loch. I assume that must be this. Okay. Despite remaining hidden beneath the dark depths of Scotland's world-famous lake, the Loch Ness Monster has been sighted a fair number of times over the years. Sadly, though, these sightings have a tendency to be notoriously inconclusive, with witnesses reporting disturbances and dark shapes in the water that could potentially be anything. This latest sighting is no exception. Recorded on a webcam overlooking the loch by monster watcher Kaylin Wangle, the footage viewable below shows a dark shape appearing and disappearing into the water. One lovely day on the March 17th, a dark shape appears very close to the shore, and is moving from left to right, she wrote in the video's caption. At first it moves slow like a wave, but as it moves closer to the tree, it seems as though the dark shape has surfaced for a few seconds, or maybe it's swimming just below it. Once it moves behind the tree, it just doesn't come back. While the clip is similar to another recorded on the same webcam back in April of last year, the anomalous shape is so indistinct and far away that it's impossible to conclusively identify. I want this to be Nessie, but I reckon it's a natural phenomena, said one viewer. You can check out the footage for yourself below. As I don't have permission from this person, I won't share it, but I will put the link into the chats for those of you that might want to check it out as well, following the show or during the break, whatever you want to do. But I'll put it in both chats, and you guys can be the judge. What you want to see here, just one more to paste. And the options, if you're out there just listening and you're not a part of a chat room currently, you can go to tfrlive.com/chat, get yourself a username and password and chat there. Or you can head over to youtube.com/paranormal portal and watch the live stream as it's happening. So a couple of options, but anyway, that's the latest in the Nessie world. So I don't know. There's lots coming out of there this year. It's really pretty exciting stuff. All right, let's get to the last one tonight. And this one I find pretty peculiar. And I don't know, just judging on the headline of the article, it seems like, well, yeah, there's lots of places where people don't go. The article in question is coming from unexplained-mysteries.com, and it's scientists create a map of undiscovered life. So on the surface, you're thinking, well, deep jungles, lesser traveled areas of interior forests and woodlands and jungles, and of course the ocean. But apparently they have a map of undiscovered life. So let's see what this is. A new map provides a general overview of where undiscovered species may still be waiting to be found. Creating a map showing the locations of every single species of animal on Earth might seem challenging enough. But imagine trying to map out the locations of species that haven't been discovered yet. Creatures that have so far managed to go completely undetected by science. 10 years on from revealing the Map of Life database, researchers at Yale have now attempted exactly this by producing a database of places where we most likely will find new species. At the current pace of global environmental change, there is no doubt that many species will go extinct before we have even learned about them, about their existence, and had the chance to consider their fate, said Walter Jetz, a professor of ecology and evolutionary biology. I feel such ignorance is inexcusable, and we owe it to future generations to rapidly close these knowledge gaps. Published on March 22nd, the new map can be viewed here. A drop-down box at the top right allows you to filter undiscovered species by class. Known species are the working units in many conservative approaches. Thus, unknown species are usually left out of conservation planning, management, and decision-making, said lead author Professor Mario Moura from the Federal University of Paraiba. Okay. Finding the missing pieces of Earth's biodiversity puzzle is therefore crucial to improve biodiversity conservation worldwide. Yeah, that's wild. I'm going to click on this link, though, because I do want to see what they're talking about. Or where. So it's all land-based, yeah. Let's see. Excuse me, hold on. Ugh. That one snuck up on me. That one snuck up a little bit, but there's... Okay, so amphibians... I'm not sure when IS is, but let's see where they're found, or maybe going to be found. Okay, so it's very rudimentary, but it does look like it's largely more unexplored places, I guess. I don't know. Mammalia. Where's Mammalia? Oh, look, they do have some real estate stuck aside here in the Olympic Peninsula area. I wonder what they're thinking of finding. Could it be? Could it be Bigfoot? I don't know. Anybody's guess, of course, but all I can tell you is that the search goes on, and lots of searches, including the wrap-up of Carrie Arnold's Bigfoot Odyssey excursion into the woods of the woodlands of Florida. They're just wrapping that up now, and I guess there's some pretty cool stuff. I don't know any specifics any more than any of you do, but I know Carrie has mentioned on a couple of appearances on Daniela's show, that which is Hidden Existence for those of you that may not know, but they've apparently captured some pretty surprising. I don't know if I want to say footage or what, because I don't know exactly the nature of what they found, but apparently some photographs, some evidence that should be fun to unveil when they come back and get it all pressed out into a viewable format for the rest of us. I'm really looking forward to seeing more about what they did find. But there's the map of undiscovered species. So I don't know. I don't know how to make heads or tails out of it, really. But there it is, in case you're wondering. That's what it looks like. Yeah. That's the news as far as I know it anyway. So I guess we're going to wrap up the news and get back to the rest of our gig tonight here. So I know the clocks are a little bit off. I was checking that out as we were coming in. It looks like we got some time issues a little bit, so I'll keep a close eye on that. I'm not sure exactly how much the clock is slow right now, but it looks like it goes a little bit longer. So it might be a little awkward as we near the breaks, because either I jump right into them, I run right into them because I'm not paying attention, or they just, they take forever. And you're kind of waiting like, so join me when we come back. All right. So anyway, that's going to wrap up the news, folks. So let's get back to the regular show. All right, folks, we are back at the regular desk here. Just got a few minutes before the break coming up. I did want to take a moment and reiterate, we've been dropping this quite a bit on the shows lately, but in June of this year, 2021, in Medellin Falls, which is a little town in Washington, there's a Bigfoot festival going on that's pretty much encompasses the whole town. Now, it's not just a Bigfoot festival. There's some amazing speakers. Ken Gerhardt's going to be speaking there. Shane Corson, I guess, is going to be speaking there. Bob Gimlin is going to be speaking there. Adam Davies is going to be emceeing it all. Don and I will be there. Not that we're necessarily a big draw, but more and more people are being announced all the time. Apparently, they're going to have a 5K run as well. They're going to be showing free Bigfoot documentaries at the in-town movie theater throughout the duration of those 2 days, the 19th and 20th of June. So if you can make this event, it literally is like a bucket list in a weekend. You could meet Bob Gimlin, sit down and talk with him. Now, full disclosure, a lot of the events, the speaking engagements, are absolutely sold out. They're done. But the way it's going to be set up, gentlemen like Bob Gimlin, when he's not speaking, may be present outside in a tented area, like a big circus tent, is the plan. And people can go in and introduce themselves, meet Bob, talk with him, and get a chance to rub elbows with some of these incredible people. Now, Don and I went over to Spokane a couple of weeks ago to the studios of Bigfoot Today. And had a chance to get together with the Bigfoot Today crew, of course, which are wonderful, amazing people, great friends of the show. But we got to meet Ken Gerhardt as well, we met Russ Accord from Expedition Bigfoot. He stopped in unannounced, and it was really cool. Fantastic people, and I know Ken was amazing, just a really cool, nice guy. We're talking to him about getting him on the portal to interview him. If you're not familiar with who Ken is, he's a cryptozoologist, and he's been at this since he was about 15 on the shores of Loch Ness. The guy's been all over the world looking into the phenomena. He's been on a number of shows. He's co-hosted his own show that was called Missing Alaska on the Discovery Networks, and just a phenomenally down-to-earth and really cool guy. He's published 2 books lately, he's published many books, but his latest book is right here. And his latest book, and you can find it if you look up Ken Gerhardt on Amazon, but it's The Essential Guide to the Loch Ness Monster and Other Aquatic Cryptids. And I've been reading through his Bigfoot book, which is right here. And it's really, really well done. I really enjoy his writing. I enjoy the depth of research, the knowledge, the information. But I would just recommend if you get a chance to meet Ken anywhere, go meet him. He's just a really good guy, hardworking, really down to earth, wonderful person. And it's just one of those events you don't want to miss. So if you can make it, thank you, Bam. I appreciate that. 5 minutes till the break. If you can make it to Medellin Falls, June 19th and 20th, make it. Because even if the speaking engagements are sold out, the whole community is going to be, a festival for Bigfoot. So there's no reason not to go. And if you want to say hello to Don and I, we'll be there as well. So just some options, folks, just some options. But we are going to go to the break. I don't know exactly when it's coming up. I'm just kind of biding my time here as I feel it out. I'm waiting for that bell. And we're of course, going to be right back. We've got several things we're going to get into, one of which later on in the show we're going to cover an article by Brent Swanser. And this is going to be an article having to do with encounters from the Boggy Creek monster. Not just the movie, but actual encounters of people had in that area. And so we're going to get to that. We're going to get to some strange, unexplained stories, and we're going to get to some other stories that are just really fantastic and very interesting, including a group of lions that guarded an abducted Ethiopian girl from some evil men. And I just love that story. It's just amazing. There's a lot more coming up. So we'll get to all of that as the show progresses, but still waiting for my bell. Give me a beat. There it is. There's the bell, folks. All right, so don't go away. We'll be right back in just a couple minutes, and we'll get into more of the fun that is the Paranormal Portal.
From the dawn of man we have turned to nature.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is the Paranormal Portal. I am Brent Thomas, and this is our journey. We're down 1/2 hour already. Wow, that goes so fast. But I love it. It's just pretty surprising how quickly it all just blows by. It's like, really? How'd that happen? But I don't pretend to know. I don't know. It's a time anomaly, I think. But anyway, welcome to the show. We're in half hour number 2, starting now. Those of you that may be new to the show, just know that we take the breaks because as we're simulcasting on TFR Live and YouTube, we're also simulcasting on iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live, and the networks have half-hour breaks. So in order to keep that all synced up, we do the little video montages here on YouTube just to keep it all synced. So it's not that we don't have more we could do. It's just we got to abide by the breaks. So it's part of the nature of the business. This is the business, after all. And it's how the lights stay on, I guess, is kind of the big takeaway. All right. So we've got a lot of paranormal goodness to get to here. I'm just trying to figure out where the hell I am. Oh, here we go. This is an article we've been working on for several shows for some of the segments, just because they're really cool, just all around samplings of a bunch of paranormal weirdness. Sometimes they're just weirdness and not really so much paranormal, but I find these stories really pretty fascinating. And this is an article from factinate.com, and it's their experiences that people can't explain. And we're on number 77, so let's pick this up here, and let's dive into some of these. Let me see what the hell I got cooking here. Okay. All right, so let's dive into these. Sorry. I got to look at myself. Oh, there I am. There I am. What the hell just happened? There we go. Wow. Okay, so number 77. Maybe ghosts are afraid of the dark. I lived in a 200-year-old house, and one night my mom made sure all the lights were off before she left the house, only to glance up in the rearview mirror as she drove away to see that the house was ablaze with light. Every single fixture in the interior and exterior was turned on. She also noticed a very strong smell of cigar smoke in my room occasionally, but never saw anyone outside smoking one. That's pretty interesting, and I don't know what that is. But anyway, let's continue. It was strong enough that they repainted in case it was coming from the walls, but that didn't help. One day while talking to someone at her church, she learned that the previous owner, who smoked cigars, had actually died in the house. Yeah, and apparently he doesn't like the darkness very much. I don't know if I'd blame him. I don't know what the deal is there, but I know with things like smells, a lot of times that can just be a kind of a seasonal thing, and it may depend on humidity and stuff because houses have woodwork, and wood absorbs smells, and as wood expands or contracts with the temperatures and the humidity, it can definitely produce smells into the environment. But if all of your lights come on, you're either a really poor electrician, or you hired a really poor electrician, or you've got a hell of a deal in your hands. I'd hate to pay those electric bills. I would say that you have to wonder, and it seems this comes up often in ghost stories especially, is that in just a single moment, an entire home could just be like every fixture's on. And it seems like, how the hell is that possible? But I think by virtue of these beings, or these, well, maybe there were people, maybe they weren't, but these beings existing energetically, they aren't encumbered by a physical frame, so they can move pretty much at the speed of thought, and so they could cover a house in just a heartbeat. But man, that's got to wake you up. I don't even know if I'd go back and shut them off. I'd be like, I'll just get it later when I come home. I don't want to deal with this right now. This one's a friendly ghost. Excuse me. All right. It says, my brother and I were home alone one night watching television. My mom was working a night shift and my father was out. And when he came home, he pushed the door ajar, poked his head through and said hello. We both turned around and said hello back, and then he closed the door. 30 seconds after that, another man opened the door to say hello. He was pale, had bright white hair, and we assumed a friend of my father who came back to the house too. We both turned around and again said hello back. And that man closed the door, and about 5 minutes later, I headed into the kitchen where my father was making dinner. I expected to see his friend again, but I saw that he was alone making dinner and assumed his friend was upstairs in the bathroom. I asked my dad who his friend was, and he says, "What friend?" Well, I mentioned that the man we had seen, and he looked at me like I was crazy. He said, "I came back home on my own." Or did ya? Or did ya? Really? You might have thought you were alone, but and literally, I mean, that could be simply how an attachment works. Like for wherever the dad was, if he was, let's say he was just out at a pub or whatever, throwing back a drink with some friends. And I don't think it says. It just says they were alone. Dad was out. So yeah, father was out. So he could have been at a bar. And again, I've always been warned, hospitals and bars, be careful. Well, and that's how attachments happen. So maybe this thing that I like this guy, I'm going to go hang out with his house, and just came back home with him. So number 79, I don't feel great after hearing this. When I was a kid, I had a talking Ernie toy that wasn't functioning properly. You had to absolutely bang it on the table for it to say, "I feel great." When I was 8, I overheard my parents saying that Ernie toy seems to speak every time they talked about my grandma. Well, I got irrationally scared and made my parents hide Ernie in a huge tucked aside toy box. Fast forward a bit, and one day I'm playing hide and seek with a friend in the room where the toy box is. While we were hiding, I mentioned to my friend that I thought my toy might be haunted because it speaks every time my grandma is mentioned. When all of a sudden we hear Ernie say, "I feel great," from inside the toy box. There's no way that box was moved. And even if it was somehow moved by gravity, you'd need to bang that thing on a table to make it talk. We screamed and ran outside. Leah Bert. There it is. Out talking Ernie's. That's enough to give you the chills. This one's answering the call. It was summer after my next door neighbor / uncle had died. To make a long story short, he was shot and killed. Ooh, that's terrible. I was in my basement of my house playing some video games, and I heard somebody that sounded like my uncle yelling my name. I yelled back, "Be right there." Turned off the good old PS2 and turned the TV off and ran upstairs to see what was going on. Turns out I was home alone and the doors were locked and the curtains closed. Needless to say, I noped the heck out of there and went for a walk. Yeah, that's a sobering thought. All right, this is emotional drawing. Probably not the most bizarre, but about 3 weeks ago, I was sitting in the train going home from work with my headphones on. A woman got on and sat directly across from me. Well, after 10 minutes or so, she takes out a little sketch pad and starts doing a little drawings of other passengers, and I'm watching because I've always found it relaxing to watch someone draw. Well, she started drawing me. At this point, videotape by Radiohead started playing in my headphones. I'm watching this woman drawing me, and I swear to God, I couldn't move. Like I was in a trance or hypnotized by something. I physically could not move. About 30 seconds or so, I started to tear up. I wasn't emotional. I wasn't feeling any kind of way, but my eyes started to well up, and then as quickly as it all started, I just snapped out of it. I could move. I stopped crying, and it was like waking up. I have no idea what the heck happened. Wow. Apparently it was a good angle. Don't move. Or she was one hell of an artist. She was good at some other arts too, apparently. Flying flatware is always a good one. 2 years ago, my town was hosting a St. Patrick's Day Civil War murder mystery. I'd volunteered to help as an actor for the event and to wash dishes. After the event, I was in the kitchen with my cook, who was a family friend, and I turned and asked her how her day had gone, but before I could even finish the question, plates suddenly went flying off the shelves across the room as if someone had thrown them and landed on the floor with an enormous crash. I won't lie and say it didn't startle me because, quite frankly, it did. I've had other paranormal experiences, but this is one that I can't figure out. Yeah, that's really, it's just so destructive. That's the part I don't understand. It's like, come on, really? Why are you going to do that? You have this moment to, make your presence known. How do you want to be known? Oh, you're the bastard that breaks plates. Great. You know, it's like, come on, could you be known for something better than that? All right, this one is, oh God, we got commercials playing. I just need a hand. I just reported aboard my first ship. We were in port in Brooklyn, New York, and I was over the side on a camel, a long wooden raft that kept the ship away from the pier, scrubbing the side with the bow with a push broom. This was in December on the East River, and the river was moving swiftly and was rough. It was cold, dreary, awful day. Anyway, I'm scrubbing away and looking around when I see an arm raise up from the river. Just as I start to call out about it and point, it sinks out of sight. Everyone thinks I'm nuts now and starts to rag on me. I can still see this in my mind, though. It's been almost 40 years. Yeah, I'm sure. Could just be, I don't know. What do you think of that? Is that a spiritual thing? Is that a cryptid thing? Is there some kind of water creature, or is it just a water spirit? I don't know. Was it waving like, hey, how you doing? Nice job. Missed the spot. Or was there something else afoot? That's really creepy. Number 84, lurking in the shadows. I worked in the kitchen of a frat house and was built in the 1800s. On a couple of occasions, I had caught what appeared to be a glimpse of a woman in the back corner of the stockroom, but I just brushed it off. When the semester was almost over, I discovered that all 5 other employees had thought they'd seen her too. Yeah, she was there for everybody. Excuse me. Jeez Louise. Time flies as this one. My wife and I had a 2-hour drive back home from St. Louis, and shortly after leaving, we both look at the clock and realize that we're already an hour and a half into the trip, and we're almost home. Neither of us has any recollection of the past 2 hours whatsoever. We had only used enough gas to have gone half hour, and our GPS showed us that we'd been driving our normal route. We still have absolutely no idea what happened, and it still freaks me out to think about. Yeah, that's really weird. Again, that kind of reminds me of, those space anomalies. Those things happen, and it's something I've experienced, and I don't know how to explain it. I don't know. Mine was nowhere near so profound as far as distance-wise, but it was profound in that I missed a dangerous part of the road that I was really concerned about. But, this is hours of driving. It's like, wow, that's pretty intense. Number 86, thanks, doctor. When I was around 15, I woke up one night with a terrible pain from cramps. While tossing and turning and crying in bed, I suddenly saw the figure of a man out in the hallway. He was dressed in black with a fedora and a doctor's bag, outlined in the doorway of the bathroom. I blinked a few times, and he was suddenly standing over me with his hand raised, palm flat, and all of a sudden, the pain was gone. That's a good problem. That's awesome. I think the world needs a hell of a lot more of those. This is last call, 87. We were visiting my grandmother when she got a phone call from my uncle. She got off the phone looking a little shocked and said that he was acting out of character. He had simply called to thank her and to say that he loved her. My uncle rarely expressed his emotions, so she thought it was strange. Not even 30 minutes later, 2 policemen came to the door to say that my uncle had passed away in a motorcycle accident that had happened close to 2 hours previously. Oh, man. My grandmother said that it was impossible since she had just spoken to him on the phone, but it was true. That's honestly, that's beautiful. I think those moments are incredible. Wow. Number 88, crisis averted. I fell off my bike on the way home one night. I was just cycling my way home when suddenly my mind drifted off and I saw myself and my mom, who was with me, as if we were looking down from above. For a second, it was like I could see things from a whole other perspective. And then I lost focus and started losing control of the bike. I fell, but when I was 3 inches above the ground, I stopped. It was like hovering above the pavement for a split second, and then gently lowered until I was just lying there in the grass. It was a weird night. Yeah, that's all kinds of weird. But a good night. That's a good one. across time zones. I was at work one night worrying about my mom who had pancreatic cancer. I'd seen her the week before and was flying back up the following day. And as I clocked out for the day, I felt like I should make a mental note of the time for some reason. It was 11:07 p.m. All of a sudden, I had the feeling my mom had passed. I told myself I was being foolish, ignored it, went home and went to bed. 5 a.m. rolled around and my stepdad called and told me that mom had indeed passed away the prior evening at 10:07 their time. I was 1 hour ahead due to living in Denver. Aw, that's a heartbreaker though. Wow. Don't call me by my name, it says. All right. I was in the living room, with my grandmother, and we were the only ones home. She was working on a crossword puzzle, and I was messing around on my iPad. Television was off, windows were closed. All of a sudden, clear as day, I heard my name being whispered. But since it was so quiet, it sounded loud. I looked up to my grandma, thinking it was her asking her if she said something. She said no, but I heard your name. Yeah, nice. Very nice. So she heard it too. Okay, number 91, trying to make contact. After my dad passed away, my stepmom kept asking me if I found the book he was reading in the last months. She didn't know the title. We looked all over the house for it and eventually found it with a stack of magazines where it definitely didn't belong. My stepmom recognized it immediately when found. The title of the book was Hello from Heaven. Aw. I also received a phone call 2 days later after he passed. The phone call was from his phone number. For some reason, I was too scared to answer. Asked the only person who had ever had my phone, my stepmom, if she had called from it, and she said she left it in the garage where he always worked. This was 14 years ago, and I still regret not answering that phone. Yeah, that's one of those things. I understand the trepidation. My God, that would be freaky, but it's your one opportunity, to possibly speak with your loved one. I don't know. Hindsight's always 20/20 on those things, but man, it's got to rattle your bacon though, either way. Okay, so demons in the basement. This one sounds really dark. My extremely Catholic grandmother owned a house in rural New York. We'd often go there when we went to camp or for family holidays. The place always had a weird vibe to it, and it was over 150 years old. I had several paranormal experiences, like seeing what I believed to be a spirit of a man in a brown coat and top hat in the kitchen. I would also hear children's voices in the bunk bedroom when nobody was home, as well as light fixtures. Oh my God, these ads are killing me. Acting strangely like bulbs going out on holiday lights when one by one in a sequence instead of all at once. Anyways, these experiences were never particularly emotion-inducing or threatening, just weird. I was convinced I saw, until one day I was about 10. I was there alone with my grandma, who went shopping and was just watching Avatar, The Last Airbender, and playing Legos, pretty standard. I went to the bathroom at one point and noticed the door to the basement. I never thought anything of the basement because it was always closed and off limits. But being unsupervised and the bold kid I was, I opened the door to get a peek. It was pitch black down those stairs, but within about 3 seconds, I felt an intense chill, an absolutely terrifying feeling of pure evil washed over me like a primal fear. Every instinct in my being and soul went into full panic mode as I felt the presence rapidly approaching me up the stairs. I shut that door and locked it as fast as I could and ran to the common room and grabbed a cross, convinced it was some sort of demon. Upon telling my grandmother this, her face went white, as if she wasn't as shocked as afraid, and as if she knew something about it. She called a priest into the house and had him bless the place. When he opened the door to the basement, he stopped abruptly and slowly descended. He performed his blessing down there and confided in us that he felt the same feeling of dread, but that the house was protected by the Lord now, and we had nothing to fear. I was always wary after that, but never experienced it again. And certainly never went into the basement. As I grew up, it weighed less and less on me. And I thought that maybe it was just a kid who spooked himself. Maybe I had a grandma who was so religious that she thought a non-existent demon was present. And maybe the priest felt what we were telling him we had felt, and it wasn't real. Unfortunately for that theory, the reason I share this is because I learned a few years ago that family had moved into the house after my grandparents moved to Florida had abruptly moved out. They had forfeited their down payments and left immediately because, and I quote from the realtor's report, the demons in the basement were terrorizing their children to an unbearable degree. So I don't know what was down there, but it wasn't human, and it wasn't benevolent, and it wasn't make-believe. Yeesh. Yeah, there's no question there's some dark things out there. I mean, oftentimes we get in our Western ideologies and philosophies, and we think, superstition, it's just hokey, maybe misunderstanding. Like, people can accept spirits, but sometimes they can't expect or accept the idea of there being evil, in a true primordial type of form, just an evil being. But I believe they're out there, and for whatever reason, they hate us. They hate us. They don't want us. They don't want to be friendly. They don't want to make friends. They don't want to be nice. They are angry, and I can't say why. Of course, we've all heard the stories, the many ideas, but for whatever reason, I think you just got to trust your intuition on these kind of things. 93 is a little help. I once heard a lady's voice coming from my closet. That's the worst place for a lady's voice to come from. And the door was slightly opened, and I heard the voice say, "Help me. I see you through the crack." I was scared spitless, but I was also curious and wanted to help, so I opened the door, and no one was there. I'll never forget this, and it still gives me the goosebumps talking about it. Eesh, that's horrible. See, this is how oh my God, this is how these pages make money. They just pepper them with ads just to the amazing degree. It's just terribly over the top. It's just frustrating because the actual material on this page is fantastic. It's just you've got to get through a mountain of ads to get to it. It's really frustrating. Almost a break here, but let's keep going. My family has a long history with mental illness, and therefore whenever we get calls from family members, we assume the worst. It happened multiple times. First, my cousin was pregnant, and she was super excited for the birth of her baby. It was around the 5-month mark that my mother and I started to hallucinate and see dark figures in the shape of a baby around my house. Since it happened to both my mom and I, we both got scared but did nothing about it. About a week later, my cousin had a miscarriage, and we stopped seeing those apparitions. Secondly, my grandma was very sick, and my mom and I started hallucinating again. This time, instead of babies crawling around the corners, we saw a slumped figure. Not even a week passed, and my grandma was declared dead after they told us she was recuperating. Finally, and probably why my mom and I are not scared of these apparitions, my sister has been diagnosed with depression for a long time. Since she's older, she lived in another country. My mom and I were in the kitchen, and the hallway lights were off, then simultaneously freaked out. We both saw a figure that immediately reminded us of my sister. My mom took this as a warning and called my sister immediately. Her roommate answered the phone, and my mom asked to check on her. It turns out my sister had tried to overdose on sleeping pills, and her roommate found her just in time to save her life. Ever since then, I believe that whatever this apparition is, it is probably someone or something that's trying to warn us beforehand. Yeah, that's powerful. Very, very powerful stuff. Premonitions. And the hard part about those is to discern what are real ones and what are, just maybe fearful thinking. I think that's the tough part with premonitions is what's real, what's not. It's hard to tell, but got to trust your gut, I guess. If it feels real, then treat it like it's real. In this case, it was just a phone call, but it turned out to be the most amazing phone call ever. So it's definitely worth looking into. But anyway, folks, we're going to get to our next break here in just a couple minutes, or in just a minute. Again, we'll be back on right on the other side, and we'll get into more of the fun that is the Paranormal Portal. We'll get into the article about the lions and one other one, and then we'll keep driving through this other stuff. And end, of course, tonight with the Brent Swanser article, which is always exciting. I'm a big fan of his work. And if you've been listening to the show for the last 6 months, you should know that. But at any rate, we'll keep going and get into it. But there's the bell. Don't go away. One more hour ahead.
Play their games. Everybody loves to place their bets. They don't understand the price I paid. They don't care to comprehend. Trace their lines upon my body, dripping scars across my heart. Raging anger boils inside me as their lies keep falling apart. With my silence, I am not a stupid boy. No more breaking me with kindness, just you dance upon my joy. Leading me with empty promise, you're just another fucking mess. Taking off the slice of my sanity, just make sure that you're well fed.
Caroline is not like those she's with. They're attracted to the one thing about her that is different from themselves. Her life force. It is very strong. It gives off its own illumination. It is a light that implies life and memory of love and home and earthly pleasures. Something they desperately desire, but can't have anymore. Right now, she's the closest thing to that.
Poltergeist are usually associated with an individual. Hauntings seem to be connected with an area. A house, usually.
Poltergeist disturbances are of fairly short duration, perhaps a couple of months. Hauntings can go on for years.
Well, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for being here with me. As always, thank you so much. And let me just say, if you're new to the show, thank you. Thanks for coming in and checking out the Paranormal Portal, folks. As always, it's a pleasure to look out there and see new faces and new names in the chats. And I want to thank you for giving us a shot. If you like what you're hearing, please take a minute and get subscribed. If you're on YouTube, hit the subscription and ring the bell. And we'd love to make you a part of the family all the time. But sit back, buckle up. We got a lot more to come here on the Paranormal Portal. And a nice slow feed. Boom. There you go. That'll wake you up. All right, folks. So welcome back. We're in hour number 2 now, and we got a lot more to get through. Well, I guess we get through what we get through, and what we don't get through, we'll get through tomorrow when Don's here. Because, well, you know, Don brings a whole nother level to the show. I just keep remembering that last story that we were both howling on. God, it was hilarious. If you didn't hear it, you have to listen to last Wednesday's show. We talked about, there was a story we ran through where a guy had like a semi-truck. It was truckers' stories from over the road. And just to paraphrase it, he had a big sleeper on there. It had a little bathroom and stuff too. But he didn't like the little tank, so he converted one of his diesel tanks into half of like a sewage tank, and then half for the fuel. And he went to sleep, and he woke up and got out of his truck, and sitting on the ground was a gas can with a hose and a pile of puke. And then a bunch of steps about 10 feet further away, more puke. And there was like this chain of puke going off into the distance. Well, apparently somebody was going to rip off his gas, but ended up picking the wrong tank. And he ended up siphoning some sewage. Oh, my God. What a horrible, horrible thing. But how poetic is that? That's a person that should probably rethink their life really carefully, because even the gods don't even like you much. That was great. Great fun. So that was on Wednesday's show. So if you want to catch the full story and all of the laughter and comments that ensued, you'll have to check out last Wednesday's show. Right here on YouTube, it was a good time. It was a good time on YouTube only, as a matter of fact. That was only a YouTube only show. So we are going through a bunch of stories. I want to get into some of these other stories that I thought were really cool. And this one, the reason I love this story, and I had heard it, or at least a version of this, I think it's the same story. I'd heard about this through one of the news organizations, but it just seems like such a divine intervention. It's like the Daniel and the Lion's Den story. And what it is it's coming from a site called Mysteries Are Unsolved and .com. Lions guard an abducted Ethiopian girl from some evil men until rescuers arrive. What a beautiful story. In 2005, an Ethiopian girl was kidnapped and beaten by several men until a pride of lions chased her attackers off. The lions then stayed and defended her until help arrived. The story was covered by the international media such as BBC News and NBC News in 2005, and according to BBC News, the 12-year-old girl was abducted by 7 men on her way home from school in June 2005. These men had held the girl for a week in the remote Southwest. Then when police tracked the men as they were trying to escape the girl, the abductors encountered 3 African lions who chased them off. It has been reported that they were repeatedly beating her before the lions, and the lions stayed with the girl without harming her for a half a day. How beautiful is that? The story spread like wildfire after BBC quoted the local policeman sergeant, Wandmu Wedai, who said they stood guard for half a day until police and family found her, and then they just left her like a gift and went back into the forest. If the lions had not come then, it could have been much worse. Often these young girls are taken advantage of and beaten, and to force them to accept the marriage, Wedaj said. Police had caught 4 of the men, but were still looking for 3 others. However, many lion experts doubted the credibility of the story. BBC News quoted a few wildlife experts on the same report saying that the lions were probably preparing to eat the girl, but were intercepted by the police and the others. Another expert said the lions might have spared the girl because her crying may have sounded similar to the mewing of lion cubs. International fact-checker website Truth or Fiction called the story disputed. Well, yeah, I mean, this is not standard behavior for lions. But at the same time, what a beautiful story. This girl is reunited with her family because of this. Yeah, it's not standard lion behavior. Because if it was, then there'd be no abducted children in the jungles of Africa and Ethiopia. I don't know. I mean, obviously it's atypical, but why take the beauty out of the story? Well, they were probably just preparing to eat her. Well, yeah, much like your the beauty in your soul. So anyway, I don't know. It bugs me when people have to stomp on that, because it, to me, for all intents and purposes, sounds like a beautiful story of some divine intervention. And I don't know why some people need to try to remove that. But anyway, there it is, folks. And I love that story. I think it's great. Now, is it true? I don't know. Of course, there's no way to know. But that is very, very strange. Very, very strange. No, this is something I already did. Okay, so let's get back to... Come on, where is it? I've got about 50 things open here, as usual. As Don could tell you. No, that's something we already covered, too. Huh. Okay. Obviously got to clean some house here, but I got to get back to the one we were covering a little bit here too. All right, stand by, folks. I'm getting it all sorted here. Back to the bone-chilling moments we'll never understand. All right, so we are on 95 on this list. This has to do with house hunters, haunted house edition. When I was younger, about 6th grade, my mom and I moved to a new city. And we started to check out new houses. Oops, let's do this. After a long day of going from house to house, we found one that my mom and I instantly fell in love with, but it was time to go into one of the last rooms. I remember walking into this small, pale blue room. Nothing out of the ordinary. I got this weird feeling throughout my body and had to run outside and throw up. My mom and the realtor followed, and that's when she asked how we knew what happened. My mom, confused, said, "Knew what?" The realtor told my mom that someone had just recently died in that room. I still have dreams about that room. Oh, no. The cardinal way, this is real short. My deceased father's favorite animal was a red cardinal. Those red cardinals always seem to find me no matter where I am. And I think that that's very valid. You know, I think our loved ones are with us and they give us symbols oftentimes. This is Pinch Me Please. My mom and I were deep in the country visiting family and driving on a back road, and there was a stalled car, and we stopped to see if they needed help. I remember vividly the 2 people inside the car looking away from us towards the mountain. We asked if they were okay, and they both individually turned towards us and had eyeballs the size of fists. They looked like something straight out of a nightmare. Huge eye sockets and eyeballs staring straight into my soul. My mom hit the gas and we took off. I don't think we went under 60 until we were almost home. Then when I asked my mom about this recently, thinking it was a bad dream, her response chilled me to the bone. She started to cry. She remembered it all. I'll never forget those giant eyeballed monsters. I think that would be horrifying. Yeah. And Mom loves that lion story too. That's right. That's a beautiful story. That would be horrible. What are these things? What would that be? Is that an extraterrestrial encounter, do you think? That's kind of what's coming to me, but I don't know. The whole eyes the size of fists is pretty... I don't even know that I've heard of an alien being described that way. Very strange. Number 98, you didn't see nothing. Double negatives. I worked as a deckhand on fishing boats out of San Diego. A few times we came across these small deserted boats drifting, and every time the new captain would just get away from them as quickly as possible. Well, I was suspicious, and one day I got my binoculars and I took a closer look at the boats, and I couldn't believe my eyes. One had 2 people in it. Both had clearly been shot a bunch of times, and one was moving and fairly alive. I told the captain, and all I got was a disappointing head shake, and we went on our way. What the hell is that? I don't know. That's a strange one. There just isn't anything for context. Okay. Number 99, private tutor. My son had trouble sleeping, so I stayed up with him, and he couldn't read, but he was looking at a book. Suddenly he starts reading out loud. And I asked him how he was doing it, and his answer made my blood run cold. He simply looked at me and said, "My friend John is telling me." Most parents are excited when their kids learn to read, but at that moment, I just wanted to get the heck out of that house. Apparently, they had a free tutor. Let them teach. Number 100. How many more are there? I guess we're getting down there. Number 100. Speaking to yourself. I showed up at work one night, and my boss was shocked to see me. He said I just called in sick. No, we've read this one before, but it was from a whole different article. Yeah, I'm not going to reread that one. I mean, it's a creepy story. I guess I could. Sorry if this is repetitive, but I'll just read it anyway. It's a very strange, like, parallel dimension kind of story. I'll just reread it. So, I showed up at work one night, and my boss was shocked to see me. He said, I just called in sick. Little did I know that this was the start of a terrifying nightmare I still can't explain. When I called home, I expected my wife to pick up, but instead, the voice on the other end was my own. I said in almost a scream, "Where's Ann?" He said, "Ann's in bed. Who is this?" I dropped the phone and told my boss I needed to get home and took off towards the door. I could hear him pick up the phone behind me and say, "Hello?" and then start to scream. I peeled into the driveway, ran up to my front door, but I never could have prepared for what I saw. My wife was sitting watching television, was shocked at me being home. I asked her who was there, and she said, "No one has been there." After a rather long talk with my wife, I went to call the prison and tell them what was going on, but the phone was dead. I went back to work, and when I came in, Dave was acting weird and asked me how on earth I was doing this. He told me that when I left, he picked up the phone, and the person on the other end sounded like me. He kind of freaked out and hung up the phone. A minute later, as he could see my car leaving the parking lot, I called back from home and asked what was going on. He said that I was a bit irate and said I was sick and didn't feel like playing those games and was telling him to stop prank calling me, and hung up. After convincing him I had no idea what was going on, we went back to work. Later, I find out that the phone line for my area had been knocked down the night before by the storm. This is absolutely the strangest thing that has ever happened to me. That is really weird. And that is the whole kit and caboodle right there. Again, I love those kind of stories. I love I don't know if that's not really a ghost phone call, but it's a spiritual encounter of sorts, I guess. Or dimensional or something. Is that a multiverse? Is that a gateway or some kind bleeding through. I don't know. I think it's pretty standard to believe we live in a multiverse. I don't think that's fringe at all. I think that we probably do. And the whole idea behind that is that every moment of your life, or every day of your life, you're confronted with choices, and we make choices as we go and to, navigate through the conditions of our world. Now, the idea behind a multiverse is that when you come to these decision points, all of these multiverses exist with you making those choices, or different choices, or varied choices, or, any number of decisions that you could make. So the idea is that there are realities of every version of you that could be possible. And is this a moment or I don't want to say hiccup, because I don't believe the paranormal is ever a hiccup. I just think it's the true nature of reality revealing itself. But is that just part of that poking through, or a crossover between two dimensions and creating that weird scenario where there's an interaction between them? And I think it's very fascinating and very, I don't know, it really cooks your bacon pretty quick, because what is going on? What is going on in those situations? Again, we talk about things like Mandela effects. And you know what? I think I'll pull up a few of those, because I love talking about them. And I know many of you are already very familiar with what these are. But essentially, Mandela effects are these ideas that, there are multiverses, and we somehow got bumped from various other ones into this one. And that's where we have these strange things going on. And let me see, I'm going to pull up this 10. Okay, so this is the one from a site called Mental Floss. Let me pull this up in the Brave browser, because I got to tell you, folks, if you use web pages a lot and you hate the ads, get the Brave browser. It does such a good job of cleaning up a lot of the trash. So let's dive into this one. Maybe we'll dive into a few more after this over the break. I might pull up a couple more, but this is 10 examples. It's from a site named mentalfloss.com. 10 examples of the Mandela effect. We only have a few minutes here before the break, but the Monopoly Man's monocle is one of them. For decades, rich Uncle Pennybags, Mr. Monopoly, has been the de facto mascot for Monopoly in the Parker Brothers, now Hasbro, game. That somehow made real estate exciting. Some insist Pennybags completes his top hat and business attire ensemble with a monocle, but that's not true. He's never worn one. People appear to be conflating his depiction with that of Mr. Peanut, the Planters mascot who sports a single corrective lens. That's because our brain can easily take subjects. So this obviously is just trying to explain them away. This is Jiffy Peanut Butter. If you look down at your school lunch break, because your parents or guardian packed a Jiffy Peanut Butter sandwich, your childhood may be a lie. While both Jif and Skippy brands have limited store shelves, there's never been a Jiffy brand. They may have had a false memory by incorporating elements of the reconstruction process of Jif and Skippy. Another one is Hello Clarice from Silence of the Lambs. The tense meetings between imprisoned Hannibal the Cannibal Lecter and FBI agent Clarice Starling fueled 1991's The Silence of the Lambs, based on the Thomas Harris novel. Hello Clarice has become a default line, reading for people looking to emulate Anthony Hopkins' creepy Lecter. But the killer never says the line in the movie. Instead, he says, "Good morning," when meeting Starling for the first time. People remember Lecter greeting Starling and remember him saying Clarice in a melodic tone, creating a false memory of a classic non-quote. There's the naysaying at the end. Fruit of the Loom ensemble label. Some people have found a fond recollection of the cornucopia of fruit on the label inside of the popular brand of underwear, but this fruit was never spilling out of a basket. It's always illustrated as a pile of food. The more exposure we get to things like advertising, the more memories for things become decontextualized. In other words, people who remember the cornucopia might not have a distinct memory of pulling on a pair of briefs and seeing it. They remember fruit was involved, and then begin to think, how is fruit usually portrayed? Well, I don't think it's always portrayed in a cornucopia. Usually that's vegetables. In my opinion. A frowning Mona Lisa, the Ed McMahon, Publishers Clearinghouse. Do you recall tonight's show, sidekick Ed McMahon showing up on the doorsteps to hand people oversized checks and balloons because they were struck it rich in the Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes? McMahon never made any house calls. He endorsed American Family Publishers. While the entities were similar, McMahon never appeared on camera as part of the prize patrol. It's an example of Brewer refers to as source confusion. You may remember a detail like McMahon appearing on television, but not the source. I don't know. I seem to remember him doing the prize stuff too. I don't know. That's a new one for me. Berenstain Bears fail a spelling bee. The Berenstain Bears have always been imparting life lessons for children in a series of illustrated books since 1962. The Bears are named after the creators, Stan and Jan Berenstain, meaning the name appears at least twice on the book cover, so why do some readers insist it's spelled Berenstein? It's likely due to the fact that kids may have seen the name misspelled in newspaper articles, because kids read a lot of those, or in handwritten references from other kids or adults. Never mind. I'm not going to read all the naysaying. C-3PO's golden moments. The Mandela effect is strong in Star Wars, who sometimes err in quoting the film's dialogue, but also recall protocol droid C-3PO as having a gold-plated chassis, and he does, with one notable exception. The lower portion of his right leg, below the knee, was silver when he first saw him. In fact, that sometimes surprises people who have seen the original trilogy dozens of times. People trying to reconstruct an event are taking whatever information they can, blah, blah, blah. But I will tell you that, not only that, but I remember the action figures didn't have a silver leg. They did not. They were just all gold. So then if it wasn't in the movie or if it wasn't in that way, then they got it wrong on the action figures too, because there was never a silver leg on those action figures. Risky Business, Shaq, Kazam, not Shazam. Okay. This is kind of a poor list. So I'll tell you what, on the break, I'll look for a better list of the Mandela effects. Well, actually, we're at we'll do the Brent Swanser article, and whatever time is left, if there's time left, we'll do Mandela effects. Otherwise, we'll do it tomorrow with Don. I like diving into these because I think they're great discussion points. Remember, the phone lines are open if you want to call in. For the record, it's available, but only if you call with your real caller ID. Don't call in blocked or anything like that, because I'm not doing that anymore. So anyway, the break is coming up in just mere moments. Always remember, if you're watching on YouTube, you can check out the show description for many ways to help support the portal and help keep the lights on here. Many of you have been extraordinarily helpful and generous, and I appreciate that. Now, just realize, obviously, a lot of us are going through tough times. It's a tough time for many, many people, and I never want to know that anybody's giving more than they can or whatever. If you want to help out the show but cannot do it financially, that's fantastic. That's okay. Just being here and watching the shows, liking the streams is huge. Commenting on the streams is huge on YouTube, because it helps move us up in the algorithm and helps our show get promoted to other audiences that may not be aware of it. And certainly sharing our streams on your social media will help us a ton as well. So there's lots of ways to help us out, but we really appreciate all your efforts on our behalf, because we've been doing this. This is actually our anniversary month. April is the birth month of the Paranormal Portal. This is 5 years. 5 years for me, and Don's 4th year. So we've been at it a while, and we're certainly thrilled with how it's developing and growing. And we're excited to see where it'll come. But we really appreciate any and all of your efforts on our behalf. If you love the show and you wouldn't mind, please take a moment, like the streams, comment on them, on any of the old streams you're watching on YouTube, and leave us messages, notes. We'd love for you to help us out if that is okay. It means the world to us, because this is a labor of love for the most part, especially the YouTube shows and streams. There's not a lot of any kind of compensation from our YouTube efforts. So, anything you all can do to help spread the word would be wonderful and be greatly appreciated. And again, it's not necessary at all. Just again, sit back and watch. Enjoy it. If you're having a good time, we're thrilled you're here, and thank you so much. So we're going to go to the last break. Come back. We're going to get into an article by Brent Swanser having to do with some Bigfoot. Some Bigfoot stories, dudes. It's going to be epic, as all of his articles are. He's just so good at what he does. And it's the article is Mysterious Encounters with the Beast of Boggy Creek. So we'll get into that when you come back on the other side, folks. The bell will be happening any second. And then there it is. All right, don't go away. We'll be right back with the Mysterious Encounters with the Beast of Boggy Creek right here on the Paranormal Portal. Welcome back, everybody. Last half hour of the show, or last 25 minutes. Cold Stare says, I love your merch, but I hate those black-eyed kids. They freak me out. Thank you to Cold Stares and V for your donations. That's really cool. Thank you so much. Helps a ton. It really does. Yeah, and I know that it's funny because I don't remember another topic we've ever covered that really affects people like the black-eyed kids. People get this real visceral reaction to it. Even Don. Don hates when we cover the black-eyed kids because he just, I can just tell when he leaves, like, okay, I'm going now. and it's creepy. It's weird, but we actually have a phone call. So let's get to the call and find out just what's going on here. This is area code 753 or 763. You're on the air.
Hi, Brent. It's Kim Gwynn.
Hey, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you.
What's on your mind tonight?
Oh, I just thought I'd call in and tell you about a wonderful little creepy ride home.
Oh, please. I'd love to hear it.
So I was actually bringing my kids to their dad's, and I was on my way home.
Uh-huh.
And thankfully, they weren't in the car. So I have kind of an older car that doesn't have Bluetooth.
Oh, okay.
So I just have a Bluetooth speaker.
Okay.
Playing music, doing whatever, whatever the kids wanted to hear.
Uh-huh.
So on my way home, the music cuts out. I thought I was getting a text message or, some notification on my phone.
Uh-huh.
All of a sudden, a voice pops up and goes, "Hi," in a female voice.
Oh, no.
And I'm just like, really? You couldn't wait until the song was done? Right after I said that, it cuts back out and goes, "Why?"
Oh, my God.
I'm like, because I really like that song.
Oh, no. Wow. And did it
I
stop
was
there?
kind of glad the kids weren't in the car. Oh, wow.
Did it stop then, or was that the extent of it?
Yeah, that was the only two, and that's the only time it's ever happened. I mean, there were no problems the whole ride there. I mean, it's a 25-minute drive.
Sure.
And there was no problems the way there. There was no problems on the way back besides, that little interaction.
Oh,
It was weird.
that is intense. It's kind of cool that you had an intelligent discussion with it, too. Just two questions, but still, or two statements, but it was intelligently responding. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. I mean, my youngest daughter would have been like, yes. But
Oh, very cool. That's cool.
my oldest daughter went to sleep for about a month.
So they got quite a different personality set there, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Well, my youngest daughter, I saw a shadow person in what's going to be her room. She's the one that was all excited about it.
Oh, very cool. Well, that's good. I'm glad she takes it well because, the fear is the big thing. If they're not fearful, then it can be interesting and, and hopefully okay. But that's awesome. That's an incredible story. Thank you so much for calling in.
Oh, no. Thank you for listening.
Anytime. I promise I'll listen every time you want to call.
Well, thank you.
All right, my lady. Well, thank you for calling and have a wonderful night.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, good night.
Bye-bye.
There was another call, but it disappeared. That's weird. Or I thought there was. Maybe there wasn't. Okay. Well, that brings us to the Brent Swanser article that I promised you guys to end the show with a bang. And so we're going to do that now. And this is, of course, Brent Swanser's incredibly talented, paranormal journalist, for lack of a better term. And he's just very comprehensive, very well-researched, does a great job. And his information is just really impeccable. He writes for mysteriousuniverse.org. And if you get a chance, check out mysteriousuniverse.org because they've got thousands of articles over there of all things Fortean and paranormal. It's just incredible. And all of them are very talented writers. Nick Redfern writes over there as well. And he's a a well-known cryptozoologist out there in the paranormal world. So great sources of information. But the article we're going to get to now is from mysteriousuniverse.org, Mysterious Encounters with the Beast of Boggy Creek. I don't know how long this is. It doesn't look like it's too bad. So we should be able to get through this and cook on through. But it says, out in the wilds of the U.S. state of Arkansas, the vicinity of the small rural town of Fouke in Miller County has long been said to be the haunt of a hulking, hairy creature very much in the vein of Bigfoot, and which has come to be called the Fouke Monster, also commonly known as the Southern Sasquatch or the Beast of Boggy Creek, typically described as standing between 7 and 8 feet tall, with incredibly long arms, a galloping gait, large, very large eyes, and often said to glow and covered with long dark to reddish hair, and is said to smell like a wet dog, and to be very fast. It's also an apparently quite aggressive hairy hominid that has become entwined with local lore, and the Fouke Monster has gone on to become much discussed in cryptozoology to this day. The creature in question has apparently been seen in the region of Jonesville and Boggy Creek in eastern Louisiana since at least the 1800s, and become well known in the 1940s when something like it was known as the Jonesville Monster. In the 1950s, there were several sightings, including a report given by a 14-year-old boy who said that he had seen an immense bipedal creature with reddish hair roaming about, and another by a hunter who said that he had witnessed a large gorilla-like creature washing its hands in the river. In the 1960s and in 1965, a boy named Lynn Crabtree even said that he'd shot at the creature. Also in the 60s was an encounter not reported until years later, which was experienced by a teenaged William Lunsford. At the time, he claims that he had been fishing when he saw something standing there, looming in the shadows, watching him from behind a tree up the road. Lunsford would say of his sighting, "This thing was on the side of the road. He'd squatted down and had a limb in front of his face. And he stands up, he lifts this limb, and then he just keeps standing up. And he looks at me, and he's just wobbling, but you can see his eyes. They're as black as coals. It looked like he was reading my mail." I just thought, oh my gosh. I knew what I was seeing. He sits there for a minute, he teeters and turns, and just that quick, in 2 steps, he was in the woods. The 1960s actually has quite a few sightings of the creature. One named Smokey Crabtree claimed that the beast would lurk around his rural property at night, unleashing earthly screams and scaring his dogs. The creature was also seen on several occasions prowling along Highway 71, such as one case from 1967 of a group of teenagers who saw a tall, hairy bipedal creature running along the highway, and another case from 1969 when a family of 4 driving along 71 spotted what they at first took to be a man in a fur coat, but which turned out to be some sort of ape-like beast, caked in mud. The creature then apparently raised its massive arms to shield its eyes from the light of the headlights and lumbered off into the forest. Despite these earlier sightings, the beast that would become to be known as the Fouke Monster really gained notoriety in the 70s with a series of high-profile sightings of something very strange prowling the woods and swamps of Arkansas. And perhaps the most famous report that kicked it all off is that of a couple named Bobby and Elizabeth Ford in May of 1971. Ford claimed that they had just moved into a house in Fouke the week before, and that he and his brother Don had been out hunting in the woods surrounding the area at the time the incident started. At some point, they heard a scream from the proximity of the house from Ford's wife and went running to investigate. When they arrived at the house, they did so to find a massive, hairy ape-like creature loitering about, and the 2 hunters had then actually opened fire on the mystery monster. Ford even said they managed to hit the beast at least once before it went ambling off into the night, but it wasn't done, as it would apparently rush them the following evening as Ford was standing out on his porch. Ford would claim that the beast had actually managed to grab him, after which he broke free in a panic and went dashing into the home, bursting right through the front door, after which they'd fired upon the creature again. Ford's wife would claim that the reason she had screamed was that the thing had reached through her window while she was taking a nap. Authorities were notified, but a search of the area turned up no signs of blood, or indeed anything to show that what was described had even been there at all, except for some scratches on the porch that could have been from the monster. Ford himself was apparently admitted to the hospital with scratches or gashes along his back from the attack. Wow. The Ford account would be picked up by the Texarkana Gazette and the Texarkana Daily News, and when reporter Jim Powell went to investigate, he found that the Fords were in the process of moving out of the home, unsure for their safety in the face of this mysterious denizen of the forest. The resulting articles on the encounter were widely publicized and talked about, and before long there were all manner of rumors being whispered about the hairy giant beast lurking in the area. It is perhaps no surprise at all that in the wake of this publicity, more sightings would be forthcoming, and another well-known account came forward from that very same month, when on May 23, 1971, a D.C. Woods, Jr., Wilma Woods, and Mrs. R.H. Sedgrass were allegedly driving along U.S. Highway 71 when they saw the abomination stride across the road in front of them. There was also the account of an archaeologist named Frank Schambach who investigated a set of three-toed footprints in the area at around the same time, and it would all get very bizarre indeed. More reports would come in through the early 70s to the point where in 1972, it was all used as the basis for the cult favorite cryptozoology film, a pseudo-documentary horror film called The Legend of Boggy Creek, which would go on to spawn several sequels and remains a classic among Bigfoot aficionados. In the meantime, the sheriff's office warned potential monster hunters away, and still the weirdness continued, with many locals claiming to have either seen the creature or to have found mutilated pets or livestock that were thought to have been its victims. There were even bounties offered for the beast, much to the chagrin of law enforcement authorities trying to keep people from traipsing about with loaded weapons through the region. There were a few hoaxers arrested as well, and it was all quite the ruckus at the time. Many were crying that the whole thing was a hoax, but still, the reports came in and tracks were found, many of them with oddly only 3 toes. However, by 1974, the sightings had died down, and the beast of Boggy Creek sort of faded from the public consciousness. But this was not meant to last, and the beast was not done yet, it would seem. In 1978, things got interesting again, with the discovery of a new tracks allegedly left by the monster in Russellville, Arkansas. And then there were several consecutive sightings of the beast in Center Ridge, Arkansas, and Crozet, Arkansas, reigniting interest in the creature, and once again, there were several odd reports of missing pets or livestock, and even attacks on dogs who were seemingly maimed by something very large and powerful. In the 80s, the encounters continued, and sporadic sightings have continued right up into more recent years. Notably, a sighting of the creature jumping from a bridge in 1991 and an intense spate of 40 sightings during 1997 and 98 alone. There have been sightings of the Falk monster right up until the 2000s, with some notable encounters along roads. In 2011, a married couple witnessed a stout, hairy creature with dirt and debris stuck to its hair, and a horrific stench crossed the road in front of their car. Also coming from 2011 is a report from a witness named Heather Owens, who was driving along at night at a place called Williams Road and saw an 8-foot-tall, hairy man-like figure stand up and glare at her from behind a bale of hay in a field. The following year, in September of 2012, the creature was spotted again, this time along State Highway 237 near Falk, where it was seen crossing the road in front of a car and described as being extremely muscular and with very long legs. Such sightings have continued on and off, with the most recent being from 2017 and 2018. In 2017, there were two notable sightings, one from a couple who were driving along a road south of Fouke near Boggy Creek at around dusk when they saw a real tall, hairy human-like figure standing near some trees off to the side of the road. And in 2018, a truck driver allegedly saw it cross Highway 71 and then continued to run down one of the empty lanes before veering off into the woods to disappear. In both cases, the witnesses have been absolutely sure they did not see a person or a bear. With all of these sightings from so many different people, there's been quite a lot of speculation on what the so-called Fouke monster or beast of Boggy Creek could be. Considering the three-toed tracks that often turn up, it's been speculated this could be injured or deformed Bigfoot, or an inbred population of the creatures, but there's also the idea that this is just legends, hoaxes, overactive imaginations. It certainly seems rather in the area's best interest to keep the mystery alive, as there are signs and memorabilia dedicated to the Fouke monster all over Fouke, and the sightings and the films featuring them have been acclaimed to fame for this normally quiet, nondescript town, leading to the notion that this is all perhaps a publicity stunt. Whatever the case may be, the beast of Boggy Creek has been entrenched in local lore and does not seem to be going away anytime soon. For further reading on the subject, I would highly recommend the book The Beast of Boggy Creek, The True Story of the Fouke Monster by cryptozoologist Lyle Blackburn, which consists of the most comprehensive information of the creature. And you can see a timeline of the most of the sightings here. That's really cool. Oh, okay. So this is folkmonster.net. Yeah, if you're looking for more reading, check out the folkmonster.net. That's the website. Any of you want to learn more, I'll paste this out there for you guys as well. But brilliant article. I've never seen the Beast of Boggy Creek, and I feel embarrassed to say that out loud because I probably should have seen the movie. Being as this is what I'm doing for a big part of my life that I should probably know, but I still haven't. I will. I'm sure I will. But the part that throws me is the three toes, because generally with mutations, especially from inbreeding, I think you get more toes, not less. I think is how that works. That's how I've heard it explained, and I might be mistaken. But if that's the case, that is kind of strange. But it doesn't surprise me. The one thing that I always have to remember is that I think one of the things that really shocked me the most was learning that the Bigfoot phenomenon was so incredibly widespread. I literally was sure it was only something that happened in the Pacific Northwest, and I'm a Minnesota guy. I'm a transplant from Minnesota, so there was never any mention in all of my years growing up of a thing called Bigfoot, ever. Now, I did know about In Search of and with Leonard Nimoy. I was already, learning about monsters and the paranormal at that age, but it was all, in a local library in a very small section of the library that happened to have some ghost books. But by and large, there was nothing available. There was no internets. There was no way to understand how diverse these experiences are, and geographically as well. But when I started learning that they're everywhere, that the only state that doesn't have claim sightings that I know of, I've heard that this is maybe not quite accurate either, but as far as I know, the only one that doesn't of the United States is Hawaii. Every other state is has some form of reports of people encountering Bigfoot or Bigfoot-like creatures. So they're everywhere. That means they are incredibly capable of thriving in any environment that we have. They're sighted in deserts. They're sighted in mountains, on snowy peaks, in swampy bottoms, and everything in between. And they don't seem to have a problem with any of it. So these could be the most adaptable creatures on the entire face of the world. It just goes to show. I mean, even with dogmen, there are a lot of them around, but generally, if you look into it, and this is something that Linda Godfrey pointed out, is that, the phone line disconnected. The thing Linda Godfrey pointed out is that dogman sightings tend to follow waterways. Yeah, I did lose the phone lines. That's why that static picked up there. So I do apologize, but we're almost out of time for the show anyway. So we'll just deal with a little bit of static here. But so, I mean, the dogman, I think, is also quite adaptable, but they do seem to need to stick near waterways, whereas the Bigfoot don't seem to need to. I think they prefer to, but, if they're out in deserts, there's not a lot of waterways. But it's very, very curious. Again, these sightings are everywhere. People from all walks of life, all corners of the world, are seeing these things, and I don't know. You got to give them a lot of credit though, because not only have they survived and seemingly thrived, but they've managed to do it while staying largely concealed for all of these generations. They've managed to stay away from us. And I think that's a hell of a feat, especially in today's world. It's hard to stay hidden nowadays. But I got to tell you, that's the one thing about the paranormal. It can happen anywhere, and usually does. So we're about 3 minutes, roughly, till the end of the show, or thereabouts. I guess it's somewhere in there. But Don will be here tomorrow night, folks. And let me just start to close the show by saying, if you're watching on TFR, iHeart, tune in and TalkStream Live, to stick around, because Paisley Wild's coming up next with The Spaces Between. And she's a dear friend and does a wonderful show on the esoteric, the metaphysical, the pagan, all kinds of different holistic ideals and practices. She does a great job outlining them and talking about them and putting them into a real clean context. So definitely check out her show and help support her if you wouldn't mind. She's also broadcasting on TFR. But she does also have a YouTube channel if you want to watch the live feed of that. And Don produces that show. So you can find Don usually there every Friday night as well. But that is youtube.com/thespacesbetween. And then following that on TFR, iHeart, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live is The Duke with World Bigfoot Radio. So there's lots more coming up as the night ticks by. But lots of greatness ahead for all of these shows. If you're into a lot of really amazing shows, amazing hosts, definitely check out tfrlive.com. There are 30-some hosts over there doing shows from everything, and Paisley's one of those shows. Our show is one of those shows. Kev Baker's is one of those shows. But they also have like Twin Flames shows. They have Gematria. They have Flat Earth shows. They've got shows to just about cater to pretty much everything you're interested in. And they do have conspiracy and nutritional shows and all of that better health, better living stuff. So definitely worth a look. So go over to tfrlive.com and check out the agenda. If you like it, you can become a member over there very easily and have full access to all of the archives of all of the shows that are on the network in a commercial-free MP3 formats that you can download. So lots of great stuff over there. And I'll be back tomorrow night with Don here on the Portal, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're doing new portals. If you're new to the show, please get subscribed. We'd love to keep you as a part of our family here. We love doing the shows, and it's been real exciting to see new faces, new names pop in. So definitely get subscribed, and we'd really appreciate it. Please like the stream before you leave tonight, those of you on YouTube. And just know that we'll be back tomorrow night. But we do live streams on YouTube from Wednesday through Sunday nights. Those are live at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So it's always the same start time, so you don't have to worry about what time's tonight's show. So when I first started doing multiple shows, I kind of had a scattered start time, and it was a mess. So I just went for the same start time on all of them, and it worked out great. So I hope you'll continue to check it out. Also, check out our podcast. Our podcast is available on all the major podcast players, and that's not the same thing as what you're watching now and listening to now. It is a different broadcast entirely, and hope you'll check that out, and maybe you'll like it too. Never know. Can't know until you try, but thank you, Bam. Great show. Thanks for always being here, brother. I appreciate it. But anyway, and thank you to all 79 of you who are on YouTube checking it out. Love you guys all very much. Be good, be kind, be nice, take care of each other, help each other out. Find the magic in every day and remember to laugh as much as you can. All right, guys, we'll see you tomorrow night right here on the portal. Good night.